What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own fantasy football huddle, presented as always by DanklyfeBrand. Let's talk sports and shank it golf brand. Today, we're talking about our Week 10 stardoms and situms, trying to get this out before Thursday Night Football begins, so that way you get all the information that you need, so that way you can set your lineup successfully for that playoff push, because I know every win right now matters more than it has all season long. All of us need 3 or 4 of these last 6 games at minimum, no matter what position you're in your league. So today we're going to help you figure out those stardoms and situms. We're going to try to bust them as fast as possible. So without further ado, fill up your cup, roll something up, and let's get right into the stardoms and situms. As always, starting with the quarterback position. Start of the week at quarterback is going to be Jared Goff. Last week putting up 21.1 points as a starter on this list, and that was on the road. This week they're playing the Chicago Bears, which is a positive matchup. They've allowed 7 quarterbacks to put up 18 or more points, and 6 quarterbacks have put up over 20 points. So look for Jared Goff to continue to play extremely well. Continuing to also ride the hot hand with Dak Prescott against the Carolina Panthers. He's got the most fantasy points per game over the last 4 weeks amongst quarterbacks. And also against Carolina, they are a weak matchup against quarterbacks, against the passers. So you're looking at this being a great game for Dak Prescott, and another game to continue to ride the hot hand. And then also riding the high end with CJ Stroud against Arizona. He's got 826 yards, 6 touchdowns over the past 2 games, and Arizona has allowed 19 or more to 4 different quarterbacks this season. So keep riding the hot hand with CJ Stroud. If you're looking for quarterbacks to get back on track this week, Brock Purdy versus Tampa Bay broke out of his slump last week, and he's playing the Buccaneers, who have allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. So put Brock Purdy in your lineup. And Sam Howell against the Giants should get back on track as well. He's 2023's Geno Smith, breakout quarterback of the year. He's 5th in points after 9 weeks so far this season, and the New York Giants are absolutely putrid. There's really nothing for them to play for as far as playoffs are concerned, and there's really nothing we need to talk about this Giants matchup. We all know how terrible of a matchup this is, or how good of a matchup this is, a terrible team it is for the New York Giants. So start Sam Howell this week. I'm also starting Kyler Murray against Houston and Jordan Love against the Los Angeles Chargers. Moving on to my sitting quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence was my sit of the week last week, and he put up 2.1 points. So my sit of the week this week is going to be Trevor Lawrence again. He's now outside the top 15 quarterbacks this season. He's playing the Tennessee Titans, who have allowed fewer than 15 points per game to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks. I'm not liking Trevor Lawrence on a bounce back game this week. I'm also sitting Russell the Love Muscle, Russell Wilson. He has been much more, there's been much more to like about Russell Wilson so far this season, and he's been much more like Russell Wilson that we know in 2023 as compared to 2022. He's averaging 17 points per game, and he's kind of matchup dependent at this point. He's playing the Minnesota Vikings, and they're just plain and simple a bad matchup for quarterbacks. He's more of a risk-reward starter at quarterback this week, so if you have a better option, stay away from Russell Wilson and stay away from aforementioned Geno Smith. We've talked about him for the past few weeks. Geno Smith, as I keep saying, is who we thought he was. He's back to being Geno Smith. Even though we started him last week and he came through, this week is back to a reality check for Geno Smith. Geno Smith's playing the Los Angeles Rams, and they're fresh off of a bye. And their last matchup against the Rams, Geno Smith had 1 touchdown and finished with 9.1 fantasy points that game. So I'm not liking Geno Smith this week. I'm also not liking Baker Mayfield against the 49ers. He's been solidly consistent, but the Niners D is tough. And especially in San Francisco, there have to be better options than Baker Mayfield. There also have to be better options in the following: Matt Stafford against the Seattle Seahawks, Kenny Pickett versus the Cleveland Browns, Bryce Young versus the Cowboys, and Joshua Dobbs versus the Denver Broncos. I'm staying away from all 4 of those quarterbacks. And then going on into the tight ends this week, I'm starting Trey McBride against Houston. He was a stardom last week. He had 8 catches for 131 yards and 21.1 PPR points. He's got 20 plus points in 2 of his last 3 games, and the Houston Texans have allowed 6 tight ends to score 9 or more points this season. I'm also going to continue to ride the hot hand with Dalton Kincaid against the New York Jets. You're looking at Dalton Kincaid. He's put up 15 points in 4 straight games. He's also got 4 touchdowns through that same span. And the New York Jets have allowed 6 tight ends to put up 10 or more points this season. So I'm starting Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. I'm also going back and starting Cole Kmet against the Detroit Lions. He's put up 9+ points in 3 straight games, and he's got he's playing the Lions, who have allowed the 7th most points per game, 2 tight ends, and also negative game script in this game for the Chicago Bears means more passing, which I believe is what's going to happen. I'm also going to be starting Luke Musgrave against the Los Angeles Chargers. He's been not great this season, but he's been consistent. And he's got heavy involvement in this offense. He's worth a shot this week if you have a need at tight end, if you're in need because of the bye weeks or because of injuries. He's worth a shot. The Chargers have allowed 5 tight ends to score 10 or more points. So I like things for Luke Musgrave this week. I'm also going to be starting Dalton Schultz against the Cardinals, Jake Ferguson against the Panthers, and Tyler Conklin against the Buffalo Bills. And then going on to the defenses that we're going to be playing this week, I'm starting the Buffalo Bills defense against the New York Jets. I'm starting the Washington Commanders versus the New York Giants. I'm starting the Detroit Lions defense against the Chicago Bears. And I'm starting Miami against the Las Vegas Raiders, as well as the Cleveland Browns defense against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Defenses I'm staying away from this week: Philadelphia against Kansas City. Kansas City against Philadelphia. Stay away from that game as far as it's concerned in a defensive perspective. Green Bay against the Chargers, the Cardinals against Houston, and Denver against Minnesota. That's going to do it for part 1 of 2 of our startums and situms for week 10. Of course, next episode, we're going over our running backs, wide receivers, and kickers. So make sure you tune into that. So like I said, that's going to do it for today. Keep your chin up and your attitude down. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, baby.